Aluminum bird stitch continents together, lanes of light over oceans, midnight kitchens at 35,000 feet, a quiet choreography we rarely notice, until a headline breaks the spell. Today on the deep dive, we're going to unpack why flying can feel scarier lately. More turbulence clips, more breaking news, while the long view still says commercial aviation remains extraordinarily safe. We've taken a deep dive into comprehensive reports from IATA and Boeing, alongside expert analysis and public discussions to get to the heart of this perception versus reality for you. Okay, let's unpack this. When you look at the broad strokes, commercial aviation truly stands as one of the safest ways to travel. It's not just a lucky streak. I mean, it's really a testament to continuous systemic improvement year after year.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how consistently accident rates have declined over the past decade. For instance, we saw a significant reduction from 1.75 accidents per million flights back in 2015 down to 1.13 in 2024. The industry constantly monitors safety using a 5-year rolling average, right? And that metric consistently shows ongoing improvement. It's a powerful illustration that, one noisy year, while tragic, it rarely erases 10 quiet ones when these robust systems are at play.
Right, and to put that in a different perspective for you, think about road travel. The World Health Organization estimates something like 1.19 million people die annually in road accidents globally. Now, compare that to the, well, hundreds of annual air crash fatalities since 2005. It's a huge difference. The U.S. National Safety Council even found that the passenger vehicle death rate per 100 million passenger miles was a staggering 1,000 times higher than for scheduled airlines over the last decade. It's really about putting those numbers into context, isn't it?
Indeed. And this stark contrast immediately raises an important question. Why the disconnect in public perception? Before we dig deeper, it might be helpful to just clarify some terms for our listeners.
Yeah.
An accident, as defined by ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, that's when a person aboard with the intention of flight is fatally or seriously injured, or the aircraft gets substantial damage.
Okay.
And a whole loss basically means the aircraft is damaged so badly it's not economically repairable, often, over 50% of its new value.
Right, basically totaled.
Exactly. And these definitions are crucial when we look at the data, especially because ICAO recently revised the definition of accident to also include other fatalities, so deaths on the ground or on other aircraft, like from a collision.
I see.
Yeah, this expanded scope, while it might make the absolute numbers seem higher sometimes, it actually gives a more complete picture of safety risks. It goes beyond just onboard casualties to the full impact.
Okay, that makes sense. So even with those remarkable long-term trends, a quick look at 2024 might make you pause. We did see a slight tick upward in the industry accident rate from 1.09 in 2023 to 1.33. Boeing's report confirms 2024 had 47 total accidents, including 12 hull losses, 187 fatalities on board, plus 5 external fatalities. And this happened after 2023 was actually one of the safest years on record. And the fatality risk rate, while still incredibly low, also rose from 0.03 in 2023 to 0.06 in 2024. So how significant is this, really? How should we interpret these sort of short-term blips in the context of that bigger picture?
That's a great question, and it's where context truly matters. Yeah, while there was that slight increase, the 2024 rate still remains below the 5-year rolling average, which was 0.10. And stepping back, this slight tick is happening while passenger air travel is hitting all-time highs. We just have more flights in denser skies. And actually, that leads to more reported events. Doesn't necessarily mean more risk per flight, which leads us to a key point. Perception versus probability. When you measure more, you often see more. Plus, near-miss reporting has also gotten much better, which, kind of counterintuitively, can look like there's more danger even as it's making flying safer in the long run.
Right, because we're catching things earlier.
Exactly.
This brings us to the fascinating psychological dimension. Our deep dive uncovered insights from psychologists like Paul Slovic, who explain that we often fear situations we don't control, like flying, way more than those we do, like driving, even though driving is statistically much riskier. Plus, let's be honest, plane crashes are huge headline news, far more than the average tragic road accident. And this gets amplified by media, smartphone videos everywhere, creating what some call a clustering illusion. Random events sometimes just happen close together, making it feel like a pattern when it really isn't one. As former pilot Marco Chan put it, accidents are getting increasing exposure from social media platforms. It's such a powerful reminder. Perception absolutely does not equal probability.
And this is critical for you, our listener. It highlights how our emotional response to these high-stakes, low-probability events, amplified by instant media, can often overshadow the actual, robust, long-term data. The real insight isn't just that it feels worse, but why our brains are kind of wired to feel that way despite what the numbers consistently tell us.
Okay, so when we dig into what actually causes these accidents, we find they're rarely just one thing, right? They're often a confluence of factors. What are the common threads or sources identify?
Exactly. They're almost always a chain reaction. Our sources point to common elements like human factors, decision-making, communication, sometimes fatigue as significant contributors, but it's also about the wider system. Maybe mechanical issues, training deficiencies, environmental conditions like weather, and the crucial role of corporate oversight and that overall safety culture.
So it's not just the pilots.
No, absolutely not. It's maintenance crews, dispatchers, air traffic controllers, weather forecasters. It's a whole complex, interconnected system working together, or sometimes failing together.
Looking at the 2024 data specifically, two categories really stand out in terms of fatalities. Other end-state accidents, which accounted for 182 onboard fatalities from 4 events, and loss of control in flight, or LOCI. That sounds serious.
It is. LOCI is a critical category where the flight crew loses the ability to maintain control of the aircraft's flight path. It often has severe consequences, as we saw with one accident in 2024, leading to 62 onboard fatalities.
Yeah.
It's clear that while these are rare, the outcomes can be devastating.
And what about different parts of the flight? Is cruising safer than takeoff or landing?
Yeah, if we broaden our perspective to flight phases, the landing phase is particularly critical. It accounts for only about 1% of the total flight time, roughly, yet it's associated with around 37% of all fatal accidents.
Wow, only 1% of the time.
Yep. Conversely, cruising at altitude makes up the vast majority of time in the air, but it accounts for only about 10% of fatal accidents. This really highlights where many safety improvements have been focused over the decades, things like stabilized approaches, better landing systems, crew coordination during that critical phase.
And there's a clear difference in safety performance between airlines too, isn't there? Something about IOTA.
That's right. Carriers registered with IOC, that's the IOTA Operational Safety Audit, consistently show lower accident rates. IOC is this comprehensive, internationally recognized audit. It basically assesses an airline's operational management and control systems across the board.
Like a really thorough checkup.
Exactly. And in 2024, IOC carriers had an accident rate of 0.92 per million sectors, compared to 1.7 for non-IOSA carriers. And get this, the IOSA carriers flew 162% more sectors.
Whoa.
Yes, so it strongly suggests the rigor of these audits and that commitment to documented safety processes really does play a significant role.
Okay. Now, we can't really ignore the headlines, especially the cluster of high-profile incidents we saw in late 2024 and early 2025. That definitely caught public attention and led a lot of people to ask, is something fundamentally changing?
Indeed. And we should address those directly but carefully. For instance, on January 29, 2025, there was that tragic mid-air collision over the Potomac River near Washington, D.C. It involved an American Airlines jet and a U.S. Army helicopter. Tragically, all 67 people aboard both aircraft were killed.
Just awful.
Yeah. Investigations are focusing on flight route discrepancies and communication errors. Particularly, the helicopter was reportedly well above the FAA's 200-foot altitude limit for that area. It really highlights the critical importance of airspace management and sticking rigidly to flight protocols, especially in these dense urban corridors.
And that was the first crash of a U.S.-registered passenger airliner on U.S. soil since 2009, right?
That's correct. A long safety streak, sadly broken.
Then there was February 6th, the crash of a Cessna commuter plane up in Juneau, Alaska. All 10 people on board killed in light snow and fog. Just a few days later, February 10th, a private jet trying to land in Scottsdale, Arizona, veered off the runway, hit another jet, burst into flames. The pilot died. And then February 17th, that Delta flight landing at Toronto Pearson in really gusty winds and snow, it flipped upside down, injuring 15 people.
And we also saw incredibly difficult events in late 2024 as well. On December 25th, Christmas Day, Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 crashed in Kazakhstan. It appears to have been potentially due to a missile strike, causing a loss of hydraulics. 38 fatalities resulted from that.
A missile strike.
That's the reported preliminary finding, yes. A particularly tragic event, and if confirmed, it's a stark reminder of geopolitical risks in certain flight paths.
Yeah.
That's quite distinct from typical operational safety issues, And then, just a few days later, December 29th, Jeju Air Flight 2216 had a gear-up landing and runway overrun in South Korea. A terrible accident. 179 people lost their lives. Now, these are all incredibly serious, devastating events. But preliminary analysis from experts suggests that while each incident is tragic, They don't necessarily indicate a systemic safety breakdown across the whole industry. They seem to have widely different causes. Weather, potential communication errors, maybe geopolitical factors, runway conditions,
Right.
and aviation learns fast. Each report becomes training material somewhere, leads to reforms. Like after the Potomac collision, the FAA quickly closed those helicopter routes and imposed other restrictions. Those were immediate safety actions.
So even with these tragic, headline-grabbing individual events, our deep dive shows how crucial it is to differentiate. Isolated incidents with unique causes versus some kind of broader systemic breakdown. It's that constant tension between our immediate emotional reaction and the underlying statistical reality. One area, though, that does seem to be seeing a definite increase in activity is turbulence. That's something many of us have experienced, and it feels like it's happening more often.
You're right to bring that up. Turbulence is fundamentally normal air movement. It's caused by lots of things: atmosphere conditions, jet streams, even air flowing over mountains. But there is growing concern about clear air turbulence, or CAT. The tricky thing about CT is it's invisible to conventional weather radar systems on planes.
So pilots can't see it coming?
Not easily, no. It's created by temperature gradients that lead to wind shear, basically, layers of air moving at different speeds, rubbing against each other, invisible bumps in the sky, and there's evidence it's increasing. One significant study showed a 55% increase in severe CCT over the North Atlantic between 1979 and 2020.
Wow, 55%.
Yeah, and it seems strongly linked to climate change, specifically a more sheared, more energetic jet stream. Projections suggest this could even triple by the end of the century, by 2100.
Okay, so that's why that advice to keep your seatbelt low and tight is always important, even when the sign is off. It's reassuring to know, though, from the expert analysis we looked at, that modern jets are built like tanks, basically. They're engineered to handle even severe turbulence without structural problems.
Absolutely. The airframe is incredibly strong.
The real risk, as so many pilots point out online, like on Reddit, is people not being buckled in. Injuries mostly affect unbuckled passengers and also flight attendants who are often up and about, working, sometimes pushing heavy carts.
That's exactly right.
And apparently this costs the industry millions annually just in the U.S. alone from injuries and related issues. That Korean Air example you mentioned before about stopping serving instant noodles on some routes, that's actually quite telling.
A practical response to reduce burn risks during unexpected bumps.
Yeah, I remember once years ago, an unexpected jolt sent my coffee absolutely flying. It was just a mess for me, luckily, but it really hammered home how quickly things can happen if you're not secured or if the crew gets caught off guard.
It's a perfect illustration. The industry is actively responding, though. We're seeing updated prediction models, initiatives like IATA's Turbulence Aware program,
Yeah.
that actually pools real-time turbulence data from participating aircraft and shares it, giving pilots better warnings.
So planes can sort of tell each other where the bumps are?
In a way, yes,
Yeah.
sharing those real-time observations. There's also exciting, though maybe still distant, technology like LiDAR. That's like radar, but using laser light. Think 3D laser scanning, similar to what's in some self-driving cars. Potentially, it could detect clear air turbulence maybe 10, 20 miles ahead.
That would be a game changer.
It would, but there are hurdles, power requirements, weight, getting it certified. Widespread deployment is likely still years away.
And beyond the high-tech stuff, the FAA is pushing for better data collection too, right? Like modernizing the pilot report system, the PIREPs.
Exactly. Moving from often verbal radio reports to digital sharing of real-time weather, including turbulence, makes that info instantly available to other pilots in air traffic control. Much more efficient.
And airlines are adjusting procedures too, like that Korean Air example, just acknowledging that, the jet can handle the bumps, but we fragile humans, especially holding hot coffee, maybe not so much.
Precisely. And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, safety isn't a destination you arrive at. It's an ongoing process. It's not a trophy on a shelf. Airlines might fiercely compete on ticket prices and routes, but they universally collaborate on safety. They share data, best practices. It's a continuous evolving effort that incorporates every new lesson learned, focusing resources where they're most needed to prevent the next accident. This is what we call resilience engineering, building systems that can adapt and remain safe despite new challenges, whether it's more traffic, climate change, or something else.
So putting it all together, for us as passengers, what's the playbook? What are the practical takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, the number one thing, and we've said it, but it bears repeating, keep your seatbelt buckled whenever you're seated, even when the sign is off. That is the single most effective thing you can do to protect yourself from turbulence-related injury.
Just keep it loosely fastened.
Exactly. Listen to your flight attendants. They are your primary safety resource on board. They're highly trained for emergencies. Don't hesitate to ask them questions if you're unsure about anything. While some people believe seats over the wing, or maybe closer to the plane's center of gravity, might feel slightly less turbulence, and there might be some truth to that, the most critical factor by far is just being buckled in. Also, common sense things. Keep heavy carry-on bags stowed safely, not under your feet or loose where they can become projectiles during sudden movements.
Good point. And what about things like a go-around? When the plane approaches to land but then powers up and climbs again? That can feel alarming.
Right, but it shouldn't be. A go-around or even a diversion to another airport isn't a sign of failure or danger. It's actually a sign the safety system is working exactly as it should. It means the pilots or air traffic control decided the conditions weren't quite right for a safe landing at that moment. So they're taking a prudent, safe action. They're prioritizing your well-being over sticking strictly to the schedule. It's a testament to the layers of safety built into every flight.
That's a great way to think about it. It's safety in action.
Precisely. In an age that ships people to orbit and groceries by drone, the real miracle is the mundane. Thousands upon thousands of safe landings every single day. Noise is news, safety is routine, the work is never done. And that's ultimately why flying stays so incredibly safe.
Thank you for being on this trip with us. Stay curious, stay grounded, and stay tuned for the next one.